The ocean doesn't forgive mistakes. Out there, where the water stretches endlessly in every direction, even the strongest minds begin to break. Imagine this for a moment. No land, no people, no sound except waves crashing against a tiny boat. Days turning into weeks, weeks turning into months, and hope slowly slipping away like sand through your fingers. Now imagine surviving that. Not for a few days, not for a couple of weeks, but for 438 days. Yes, more than an entire year, alone, drifting in one of the most dangerous and unpredictable places on Earth. This is not a story of adventure. This is a story of desperation, of hunger so intense it changes who you are, of loneliness so deep it feels louder than any noise, and of a man who faced death every single day, yet somehow refused to give up. But here's the twist. He never planned for any of this. It all started as a simple fishing trip. And what nobody expected was that this ordinary day would turn into one of the most unbelievable survival stories ever recorded. The man at the center of this story wasn't a celebrity. He wasn't famous. He didn't have millions of followers or a glamorous life. He was just a fisherman, a hard-working man who spent most of his life near the sea. Fishing wasn't just his job, it was everything he knew. From a young age, he had learned how to read the water, how to understand the winds, and how to survive in harsh conditions. To him, the ocean was familiar, almost like home. But sometimes, the very thing you trust the most becomes the most dangerous. He lived a simple life, no luxury, no big dreams of fame, just enough to get by. Like many others in small coastal towns, every day was about survival, catching fish, earning money, and feeding himself. And on that day, everything seemed normal. The sky was clear, the sea looked calm, there was no warning, no sign that anything was about to go wrong. He set out on a small fishing boat with another man. Their plan was simple: go out into the ocean, catch fish, and return within a day or two. That was it. No extra supplies, no long-term plan, just a routine trip, like they had done many times before. But the ocean has a way of changing its mood without notice. What started as a calm day slowly turned into something terrifying. The winds began to rise, the waves grew stronger, and before they could even react, a violent storm swallowed them whole. This wasn't just bad weather, this was chaos. Their small boat was thrown around like a toy, the engine struggled, visibility dropped, and in the middle of that storm, they lost control. They tried to fight it, they tried to steer back, but nature was stronger, much stronger. Hours passed, fear grew, and then the moment that changed everything forever, the engines stopped. Just like that, they were stranded, in the middle of the ocean, with no way to control where they were going. At first, they thought help would come. They had a radio, they tried calling for assistance, they sent their location, they waited. But here's the reality no one talks about. In the vast ocean, being somewhere doesn't mean you'll be found. The radio eventually died, and with it, their connection to the world. Now it was just the two of them, floating, drifting, completely at the mercy of the sea. The first few days were filled with hope. They believed rescue teams would arrive. They believed someone would find them. But as days turned into a week, that hope began to fade. Food ran out quickly, water became a bigger problem, and hunger started to take over. At first, they tried to ration what little they had, but it wasn't enough. The human body can only go so long without proper nutrition. Weakness began to set in. Their energy dropped. Even simple movements felt exhausting. But survival forces people to do things they never imagined. They began catching fish with their bare hands. They ate them raw. No fire, no cooking, just survival. Birds that landed on the boat became food. Anything they could catch, they ate. And water? They couldn't drink seawater. It would kill them faster. So they waited for rain.
Every drop became precious. They collected it in whatever they could find. But when the rain didn't come, desperation returned. And this is where the story takes a darker turn. Days became weeks, weeks became months, and mentally, things started to fall apart. Imagine being stuck in the same place, seeing nothing but water every single day, no conversation beyond the same person, no change, no escape. It breaks you, slowly but completely. The man's companion couldn't take it anymore. The hunger, the fear, the endless waiting. It was too much. And one day, he made a choice that changed everything. He gave up. Just like that, the man was left alone, completely alone, in the middle of the ocean, with no one to talk to, no one to share the struggle with, just silence and the sound of waves. This was the moment where most people would lose their will to live, but somehow he didn't. Now the real battle began, not just against hunger or thirst, but against his own mind. Loneliness is a different kind of pain. It doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in slowly. It makes you question everything. It makes you forget who you are. Days blurred together. Time lost meaning. He stopped counting. Sometimes he would talk to himself, just to hear a human voice. Sometimes he would imagine people around him, conversations that weren't real, moments that only existed in his mind. But even in that broken state, one thing remained: the instinct to survive. He kept catching fish, he kept drinking rainwater, he kept holding on. There were moments when ships passed in the distance. Hope would rise. He would wave, shout, do anything to be seen. But the ocean is too big, and his boat too small. No one noticed. Imagine that feeling, seeing rescue so close, yet completely out of reach. It's enough to destroy a person. But somehow, he kept going. Months passed. His body changed. He became weaker. His skin burned under the sun. His clothes tore apart. He looked nothing like the man who had started that journey. But he was still alive. And then something unexpected happened. One day he noticed something different in the water: floating coconuts. That might sound small, but to him it meant everything. Because coconuts don't just appear in the middle of the ocean. They come from land, which meant land was nearby.
For the first time in months, real hope returned. He scanned the horizon, and there it was, a small island. But here's the twist. Even now, nothing was guaranteed. He had no control over the boat. The currents could still pull him away. This could be his only chance. So he made a decision. He jumped into the water. After months of drifting, weak, exhausted, barely able to move, he swam. Every stroke was a fight. Every second felt like it could be his last, but he kept going. And finally, he reached land. After 438 days, he stood on solid ground again. Think about that. More than a year lost in the ocean, and somehow he made it. But survival doesn't end when the struggle is over. In many ways, that's when a different kind of pain begins. When he was found, he didn't look human anymore. His body was broken, his mind even more so. He had lost weight, his skin was damaged, his eyes carried something no one could fully understand. The trauma of what he went through didn't disappear. How could it? He had watched someone die. He had lived through unimaginable isolation. He had faced death again and again for over a year. And even after being rescued, those memories stayed with him. People heard his story and called it a miracle. And yes, it was. But for him, it was also a nightmare he could never fully escape. He had to rebuild his life, learn how to live normally again, learn how to be around people, learn how to sleep without the sound of waves haunting him. And even then, some things never go back to normal, because experiences like that change you forever.
So what does this story really tell us? It's not just about survival. It's about the strength of the human mind. Because physically, he should not have survived. Mentally, he should have broken. But something inside him refused to give up. Even when hope was gone, even when he was completely alone, even when death felt closer than life, he kept going. And maybe that's the most powerful part of this story. Because we all face our own storms, not in the ocean, but in life. Moments where everything feels out of control. Moments where we feel lost, alone, and ready to give up. But this story reminds us of something important. As long as you're still breathing, there's still a chance. No matter how small, no matter how impossible it seems. Because sometimes survival isn't about strength, it's about refusing to quit. And in a world where giving up feels easy, that might be the hardest thing of all.